Yeah, so I just moved into this squat and I had a room. It was a little box room and it was a right shithole. So I got some paint and painted it black. Black windows, even the window panes were black. And then, like, my bed took up the whole room virtually, double bed. So that wall that was facing the double bed, I painted a white spade, you know, like in the Ace of Spades, right? Yeah, it was a spade, white spade. And then I splattered white paint all over the rest of the black wall. I think I'd done some upside down crosses in white on the windows and stuff like that as well, and I have one of those lava lamps. So then Paul came round and we took these yellow window panes in my bedroom, and so we was in there. This acid, we only had the one tab. Well, I don't know, when I realised I was coming up on it, we were just smiling at each other and looking around the room, and I could hear his voice in my head saying like, oh, I'm really coming up on this acid. And I was thinking, gosh, yeah, I'm really coming up on it. And then like we looked at each other and knowing look, and it was just like, you know, when you've got the power to be able to mind communicate, that's what we was doing. We was communicating with our minds to each other. Well, that's what I believed. It was amazing. It was like we was in space and the bed was like flying in space with this spade like a planet in front of us and all the black walls. It was just an amazing trip. And then the next day I went round to my mate's house, Fanny. She had her brother round and he was a Christian. And I said, yeah, man, we take this acid and painted the walls black with upside down crosses on the windows. And like, he was really quite, you know, what's going on? And Fanny was like, God, Deb, you know, you're off your head. So I'm like, oh no, bummer. Because like, I'd had a really, really good trip. It was my first ever trip. I'd never tripped before. It was amazing. My mind was blown. I was trying to express to her how great the universe was, and she was down on me. I went back home, my black room, and Paul had gone. And when I got back, he'd gone. And I was thinking, oh my God, supposing she's right. He's just some sort of crazy guru guy. This is mad. And I held my head down. And between my feet, there was a torn off Rizla. And on the Rizla was written something like, it was all real, we were there, I was there, you know, take care, Deb, see you later, Paul. It was just amazing. It was like the confirmation that, yes, it was like, I've never experienced anything like it in my life. That was tripping. That was the first time I tripped. I didn't have mushrooms. I had acid. But, I mean, at the end of the day, what's the difference between acid and mushrooms? I mean, okay, chemically, one's man-made and the mushroom comes like that. But don't they get that sort of, the LSD or whatever they use in them, don't they get it, the psilocybin from the mushroom or anything like that? I don't know. So, like, that was my first trip and it was amazing. And I was in love with everything. Like, there was a spider on the windowsill and I picked it up and I said, I love you, spider. So, good trips. I have got more good trips. But what happened was I had quite a few really good trips with different people and that, and even on my own. And then when I took the mushrooms, obviously I took like loads. I thought I was it, and I took far too many probably. But what it did do was it straightened me right out, you know, for a while, and it kept me off of things like cocaine, because in my mind I thought, oh no, I'm not going to touch that cocaine if it's anything like tripping, when I thought, you know, with mushrooms and that, which is crazy, but there you go. So the mushroom is a different trip, maybe it's more magical. Maybe it's more physical. I mean, like, I've had a really good mushroom trip with David. We went to Amsterdam, but it was a mild trip compared to like the trips that I've had. It was like a mild trip. We had these Mexican mushrooms, made some tea. We had the mushrooms, and then, do you know what we did? It was mad. I think we might have had sex, but I think it was before we was coming up. And then we went and had this shower, and this dodgy third-rate shower, yeah? And then the sensation of tripping and taking a shower and the freezing cold when you come out of the shower is intensified to the point where it's not, it's not particularly a good idea to take a shower whilst tripping. I couldn't get made around that at all. And I had some really weird trips. But I'm not saying it was bad. It was good, man. It was good. That's what the whole thing is. Like, you can't really say there is a good or a bad trip. It's just a stronger trip or a weaker trip. But when you're actually tripping, you see something, in your mind you could turn it into something more. And whether that be nice or horrible is neither here nor there. I mean, one time I saw a vampire laying on a log in the park, and there was loads of us, and there was this cut down log tree thing, and I was walking up the path. It was really dark, and laying on the log was a vampire, and I sort of stopped and I sort of enjoyed the feeling of fear. So it wasn't like a really scary feeling. It was more sort of a, like an adrenaline rush, thinking, fuck me, there's a fucking vampire there. And then the vampire sat up with its arms across its thing like that. And then it looked at me and it went, and I thought, wow. And like, it was amazing. And then after I thought, wow, haha, that's amazing, I screamed. But it weren't a scream like a little it was like the most gut-wrenching proper scream, man, right out there. And that night it was a party with a couple of houses in at Gypsy Hill, yeah, in the squats, and my scream apparently sent about 3 or 4 people into a bad trip. One guy said he saw there's a television tower at the top of Crystal Palace. We used to call it the Big Spliff in the Sky. Yeah, it's Big Spliff in the Sky. And he saw that turn into a giant set of works, like needles and all that, and syringes and blood coming out the end of it, squirting out, because I'd screamed like that. Now, the scream that I did wasn't like, oh, I'm really scared, I'm going to scream. It was like, wow, this is going to be great fun, I'm going to enjoy this. It was like being at the movies, like, really get into it. And then that same trip, I was like going up to people, because it was like a party and people were out on the street and up at the park and stuff. And I was going up to people, everyone I met, and I was going, what's your name? Where'd you come from? Where'd you live? What's your name? Where'd you come from? Where'd you live? What's your name? Where'd you come from? Where'd you live? And so there's good trips and there's good trips. I mean, to be honest, my bad trip was probably the best trip I've ever had in my life. Because right up until that point that it turned all horrible, right, and that I seriously got into it, because I was obviously indulging in it rather than enjoying the beauty of horror or whatever. I was just creating some sort of crazy horror that was scaring me. But before that, I was laughing, I was joking, and it was brilliant. And like, it's something in myself, when I got told off by Steve, I should never have accepted that as like, oh, we've been told off, because that's what my conditioned brain made me accept what he was saying and react. A warrior shouldn't accept what people are saying like that and react. They should just ignore it or see the funny side of it.